Okay, well, I'm late to the party on this one, but I'm in a foul mood this morning and I wanted something to moan about, so sue me. As you can see here, the aptly named Bobby Kotick from Activision Blizzard is due to get a $200 million payout while simultaneously laying off a load of staff, most recently in the European offices. As you can see on this story here from, who is it? gamesindustry.biz. Activision Blizzard preps for layoffs at European offices. And this is not the first time this has happened. A couple of years back, I made a video about the fact that Bobby Kotick at that point was getting a large payout. And they announced on the same day, or certainly within a couple of days of each other, record profits followed by layoffs. So this is a almost perennial story with Activision Blizzard. Activision Blizzard don't seem to give two hoots about their staff, and they will lay them off at a drop of a hat just so Mr. Kotick can make his lovely $200 million. And let me ask you this. I know, people talk about capitalism and, if a company's doing well, then the people at the top should do well. But what about the people who actually do the bloody work? Should they be rewarded for making the company record profits again? Or should they be laid off after making the company record profits? And the last thing I saw as well, and I can't see whether it's written here, but some of these people who were laid off were actually offered BattleNet passes as part of their severance. And okay, look, they're going to get some severance pay. But why do they need to be laid off? Okay, look, I know we've had COVID and all the rest of it, but we're going to come out of COVID and the esports divisions of these companies will pick up again because esports is growing, and it may have shrunk recently, but it will grow again. And so Mr. Kotick could have taken, $100 million payout instead of a $200 million payout perhaps, and they could have kept those people on. And then when the industry starts to pick up again, that side of the industry starts to pick up again, they'd be ready to go, wouldn't they? But no, these people, two people like Bobby Kotick, are 10 a penny. They're disposable. They're not of any worth, despite the fact that these are the people, as I say, doing the work, making the money for Bobby Kotick. I mean, he's aptly named, isn't he? Bobby Kotick. Yeah, I know it's Kotick, but never mind. Bobby Kotick. Bobby Kotick. He's a fucking parasite. And he's not the only one. The games industry, and many large industries now, are full of parasites who take huge bonus payouts. And Activision Blizzard is making lots of money, mainly through microtransactions, which is screwing over the customer as well as screwing over the developers. But many of these companies have people who make huge payouts regardless of whether they're doing well. And you can bet your bottom dollar, if Activision Blizzard take a downturn and Bobby Kotick gets laid off, you can bet your bottom dollar that there's something written into his contract that he'll get another massive payout. This man, Mr. Kotick, never needs to work again. Ever. Ever. Even before he got this most recent $200 million payout. While, and I'll say it again, laying off members of staff. How can we have a society where people make a company millions and billions of dollars? They get laid off, and the people laying them off get a $200 million payout. And if these people make a complete cock up and the company starts losing money, they would still get a $200 million payout. We've seen it before. We've seen these people are serial failures, some of them. And they go from company to company to company, never doing anything, never making any real money, never making the company better, never improving things for workers or customers. And what happens? What happens? They get a severance and they leave and they're rich. Meanwhile, the poor schlub working 50, 60 or more hours a week to try and get the game out the door, or to organise an esports tournament or something like this, these guys who work their asses off, what happens to them? Oh, here you go. Have a small payout, but we don't need your services anymore, and we'll hire someone else when we need to do this again. Or, we might take you back again on a lower income. Or maybe the same income if you're lucky. It reminds me of when, years ago, I worked for a glass company. I was a glass cutter. And we used to have a thing called Youth Opportunities Scheme in the UK. And basically it was where people who were unemployed could go and work for a company and they would get paid a small amount of money, basically their dole. And the idea was that they go and work and it might end up with them getting a job. That was the theory. Often what happened was they were used as cheap labour and then let go at the end of it, and then they would take on somebody else on the youth opportunities and use them as cheap labour. And when I was doing this, I was actually being paid a very small amount of money, but I was being actually paid a wage. But we had a youth opportunities lad there. Now, the youth opportunities people weren't supposed to do overtime. Part of their sort of contract, if you like, was that they didn't do overtime. So they would just do the normal work and then they would go home. And then hopefully, they'd get a job at the end of it, which they didn't ever get a job at the end of it most of the time. But they'd get a job at the end of it and then they could do all the overtime and they would get the benefits of all that. But the company I worked for used to expect these guys, even though they weren't supposed to, used to expect them to do overtime. And of course they did, because the pressure was on them to do whatever they were told to do, because they were trying to get a job at the end of it. So we had this lad who used to do all the overtime that I did. All the, I did, hours of overtime. I used to work till late in the evening because, the boss would come in and he would give you an order. Oh, this glass needs to go out tomorrow. So you'd end up cutting 200, 300 pieces of glass that were supposed to go out tomorrow, and then it wouldn't go out tomorrow because the job hadn't been finished and they weren't ready for the glass yet. So it was a building site and there was no point sending the glass over. So I'd worked till 8 o'clock at night to get this glass out, and it didn't go. So it was then sat around waiting to get broken for 2 weeks while they finished off the build, and then they got the glass and the glazers did their work. But while I was doing this overtime and also working Saturdays and sometimes Sundays as well, so was this other lad, the youth opportunities lad, who was basically working for the dole. He was working for his unemployment money. And then one day I was off down to the office to speak to the girls in the office because we needed some paperwork or something, I forget what, because it was a long time ago. And as I was walking past, the top guy in the company, or one of them, because there was a couple of brothers, the top guy in the company handed this lad £5, and said, "We really appreciate all the work you've been doing over the last couple of months. There you go, have that." £5. Even then, that was a bloody insult. And that's what it's like working for the likes of Activision Blizzard, I would imagine. You get treated like crap. You get worked into the ground, and then at the end of it, you're like, "Oh, here, have a bottleneck pass to go along with your severance." It's a kick in the balls and a spit in the eye. Meanwhile, Bobby Kotick is making 200 million, along with the other guys at the top of these companies. I've got nothing against people making a lot of money if they're doing a good job. But what I have got something against is people making obscene amounts of money while other people are having problems trying to get food on the table or pay their bills. And then, after they've nearly killed themselves to make people like Bobby Kotick 200 million, they're laid off and given a BattleNet pass. How is that right in any world? How is that sustainable? How is that acceptable? You tell me. And I know someone in the comments is going to say, well, it's capitalism. It's bullshit is what it is. It's rich people keeping themselves rich while other people do the bloody work for them and end up with having no money for food or bills. It's just not right. It's like we're in a kind of new feudalism where the serfs do what they're told and the people at the top steal their food. And I'm sick of it. I'm really sick of it. And I'm sick of people like this guy just creaming money off the top while we get fleeced and the people doing the work get fleeced even harder.